the thing. There you go.
Great. Thank you. Good morning. My name is Thomas Reutman. I'm a hearing officer for San Francisco Public Works. Clinton Otwell is the clerk of this hearing. This hearing is being recorded via Zoom and will be available afterwards through a link on the San Francisco Public Works website, sfpublicworks.org. As this is a virtual hearing, there is no sign-in sheet. So if you'd like to receive information about the results of this hearing, please send an email to the email address listed on the hearing notice. If you do not have that with you, please contact the Bureau of Urban Forestry at urbanforestry@sfdpw.org. This public hearing is being held to consider three items. First, public comment. Members of the public may address the hearing officer on matters that are within the department's jurisdiction but not on today's agenda. And then the three items that are scheduled as hearing order 212835 to consider the removal of one street tree without replacement adjacent to 532 Peralta Avenue. Hearing order 212836 to consider the removal of one street tree without replacement adjacent to 538 Peralta Avenue. And hearing order 212837 to consider the removal of one street tree with replacement adjacent to 3096 Washington Street. In all of these cases, the staff has approved the removal and the public has protested. My job as the hearing officer is to gather the facts for the hearing, listen to your testimonies, and help our Director of Public Works make determinations. I will not be making any decisions today. Instead, I will forward the findings from this hearing and make my recommendations to the Director. The Director will make the final determinations. When the Director's determinations are made, the department will notify you of them if you've provided contact information. The hearing will proceed as follows for each case. I will ask Public Works staff to speak first and present the case. Then I'll allow the property owner, applicant, or appellant to speak. Then any member of the public or witness who wants to speak. And then the department, if the department would like to address any comments. And if I feel it's warranted, I will allow an opportunity for further clarification by the appellant. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes to speak. The clerk will monitor the time for all speakers and will indicate when the speaker has 30 seconds left. If you are a party to this proceeding, I will call on you to speak. If you would like to use visual materials in your presentation, please let me know before you speak. If you will then have the standard 3 minutes to provide your comments. If you're a member of the public or witness who wants to speak, wait for me to call for public comments. Then use Zoom's raise your hand feature to put yourself in the queue to speak. If you've dialed in by phone, raise your hand by pressing *9, and when told you're being unmuted, press *6 to unmute yourself before speaking. When it's your turn to speak, I will recognize you. Again, if you would like to use visual materials in your presentation, please let me know before you speak. You will then have the standard 3 minutes to provide your comments. Comments and questions should be addressed to me and not to the department or the applicant. If you cannot finish your comments within the allotted time, you may submit written testimony to me by the end of this hearing. If I feel that a question is warranted, I will ask the questions. After all comments are completed, I will close the item. All right, we'll now begin the hearing. Are there any matters in the Public Works jurisdiction that are not on the May 20th, 2026 agenda?
Uh, no, no, there's not. But uh, I can start my presentation if that's all right.
Yeah, so then the next item would be hearing order 212835 for 532 Peralta Avenue, and I'll have
Mhm.
the department make its presentation.
All right, I will share my screen and start my presentation. Uh, can everyone see?
Not yet.
Okay. Not yet? Okay. Let's see. Share. Now can everyone see?
We can, you'll just
See
want to
it.
put it in presentation mode.
Like this? The is this does this work? Just making sure.
I mean, I can see the screen, but I also see your slide deck, so you might want to
Oh, okay.
start the presentation
All right, maybe I can shift this over
or start the slideshow.
like this. Does this work?
Yeah, it's still showing your next slide. I don't know if that's something that,
Oh, that's fine. That's
okay.
okay. Okay, I'll start the hearing without further delay. This is the tree removal hearing for May 20th. Um, our goals at the Bureau of Urban Forestry is to ensure safe, clean, and green infrastructure in the public right of way. Buff's mission is to preserve and grow the urban forest while balancing the safety and needs of a growing and evolving city. Through our program, Street Tree SF, we have $19 million annually set aside in the city's general funds for Street Tree SF. Uh, uh, in this picture is our key map progress. Currently, we are going to have all the trees pruned and maintained completed by the end of the fiscal year of 2026 on schedule. We're using census data completed in 2016, used to create priorities and a proactive tree pruning schedule for the city's 125,000 street trees. It's important that we have a tree ordinance that establishes the authorization and standards for addressing a wide range of issues regarding trees. San Francisco's urban forestry ordinance is codified under Article 16 of the Public Works Code. Our Article 16 urban forestry ordinance requires a removal permit to be required to remove street trees, significant trees, and landmark trees. Some important updates from February 2022. If the department is removing a tree, a replacement is required within 120 days or added and tracked on a delayed replacement tree report. If the tree cannot be planted in situ, then it must be replanted at a nearby location. The same goes if a property owner / applicant is granted a removal permit for removal of a healthy tree, the department shall require a replacement street tree or equivalent value to the one removed or impose an in lieu fee. A simple example, the owner would pay the difference between the appraised value of a subject tree minus the value of the replacement tree. The value of a replacement tree is based on the standard in lieu fee for a 24-inch box or installation replacement size. In most cases, a tree removal permit will not be granted if the tree is healthy and structurally sound. Our tree removal criteria is the following: dead, dying, not thriving, poor species for location, growth no longer sustainable, damage to private property, or the tree is deemed hazardous. Um, if a tree is small, less than 4 inches in diameter, and construction requires the removal, or the tree can be replaced in kind. The tree will or the tree will be destabilized by construction. There is no feasible workaround. Uh, uh, the applicant must provide sufficient supporting documents. If the tree is in good, fair condition, the applicant must pay the appraised value for the loss of the tree. These are just some examples. If a removal permit granted, the property owner is required to plant a replacement and pay the difference between the appraised value and new site based on the in lieu fee structure. Example for this would be like a tree approved for a new driveway. if the tree site is lost, and the tree is in good condition, the appraised value or in lieu fee will be assessed, whichever is greater. Moving on. Some common defects we see in street trees, specifically in regards to like ficuses, is like poor taper with basal defects, for example, girdling roots, infrastructure, /infrastructure, root decay, etc. Large stems with poor unions include like bark conclusion, narrow angle of attachments. These just have these cause like weak and like risky branches to like linger on trees. So we try to maintain. We try to maintain that on trees, on street trees. And here's just some pictures, some examples of like poor taper. As you can see, this like tree like fell over, even though it was green and healthy, seemingly. But moving on to starting this with order number 212-835, 532 Peralta Avenue. To consider the removal of one street tree without replacement adjacent to 532 Peralta Avenue, the staff approved the removal and the public has protested. Per our assessment, we found that the tree was in good condition, but the sidewalk present here is currently impassable due to root uplift of about 2 inches across the entire width of the path. The current width path of travel is less than ADA requirements of about 3 feet, and the right of way for this area is only 6 feet wide. This is just another photo of the tree. As you can see, this is our records for our public right of way for this area. It's about the highlighted bit for 6 feet. Is what what we have on record for the what the path of travel the city is responsible for. Public right of way is only 6 feet wide, while private right of way provides that's right. The private right of way provides an additional 5 to 6 feet of path at this location. There's this the section of the sidewalk where the tree is about 6 feet. And there's private path of travel area about another like 3 to 6 feet here, extending outward. And this tree, this tree is currently uplifting the sidewalk, and in order to fix the sidewalk and make it flat and accessible, the roots required to cut will destabilize this tree. So that is the reasoning for like our approval for removing this tree. However, as a mitigation for the removal, for retaining this tree, we can establish a legal requirement for the owner to take responsibility for accessible path of travel, extending into the private area of this pathway. Path of travel of the sidewalk could be expanded to departmental standards of 4 feet if the ingress rights are awarded by the property owner, and the private sidewalk is brought to the city standards of passability. And that's the end of that case.
Thank you, Karan. Before we hear from the property owner or appellant, I just was curious, who initiated the request for the tree removal? Was it the city or was it the owner?
It was Public Works. It was staff approved, staff initiated to fix the sidewalk, to address the sidewalk uplift.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, I guess we'll hear from the property owner. Sorry, the appellant. Is there an appellant present?
It is. It's Mr. Ulmer, Andrew, and I just asked him to go ahead and speak and unmute yourself.
Thank you, Clinton. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. I don't think I have the option to put myself on camera. Is that
You
an
you
option?
do if you'd like to. Yes, we can.
I'm
Do you
happy
have the
to.
materials to present?
I have no materials. I just thought it
Okay.
might be nice to see my face.
Okay. 1 second. You should be able to do that now.
Okay. Can you see me? And
Yes, we can.
okay, great. Pleased to meet you. So I'm brand new to this process. I found out, and I appreciate the work you're doing and the care and diligence with which you're doing it. So I've owned this home for 15 or so years. I was informed of this by my tenant who lives there. So I'm not currently living there, but I do care about the condition of the home, the sidewalk, the tree. And I feel that the tree definitely adds value to the street, the neighborhood, the property. And I like that it's mature, that it's a mature tree. Really, I understand there's a lot of factors at play here, and so I'm trying to understand what are the options in terms of keeping the tree versus, excuse me. I'm really trying to understand what the array of options are here because I'm not really clear. I don't think it's as simple as just keeping the tree or taking it out. Clearly, there's other implications. So, could you help me understand the options?
Um, I mean, I'll defer to Buff if there's any. I understand what Buff
Sure.
is trying to do to fix the sidewalk, but are there any other options other than
Sure.
removing the
I
tree?
can I can explain. I can reiterate what I meant by that is that we need to establish in order to retain the tree, we need to establish a legal requirement for the owner to take responsibility for the accessible path of travel. That means we can cut the basin um, up to where the white markings are um, to expand it and to alleviate some of the root uplift, but we need to establish that the beyond the public right of way, that this private area can be utilized as path of travel. So essentially, as per this, once this hearing has concluded and we have the official decision from the director, we can use the decision uh, ultimately as a way to have it in writing that the path of travel will be maintained by the owner per our standards, um,
Okay,
standards of passability.
understood. So, in essence, are you describing a easement on my private property that becomes a right of way passable as a sidewalk?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, because this that private area is not in the public right of way technically, so it's not being utilized as like a path of travel that we can note as like a path of travel um, until this hearing has been concluded and a decision has been made. But ultimately, we can cut, like I said, we can expand what the tree basin to that white mark, those white paint markings. We can expand the tree basin out um, in order to try to retain the tree. Um, because currently, if we just cut and replace the sidewalk, that tree will be destabilized.
gotcha. So I have questions about the standards of upkeep and what the implications are, and I know you wouldn't be in a position. I imagine you wouldn't be in a position to advise me on the legal implications of creating the easement, et cetera. And that may be something I need to inform myself on before I can provide an opinion based on a full understanding of the situation. But if you were to replace the tree, what would that look like?
So currently, this tree is not replaceable because of the public right of way issue that is
I see.
presented. We can't replace a tree that doesn't have at least 7.5 feet worth of public right of way um, to
Gotcha.
use because we have that the ADA standards we have to abide by. Um,
Got
I,
it.
I think what I'm hearing though, Andrew, is you're saying if you were to cede that 4 foot space that's currently yours to do what you want with it and assure the city that you'll maintain it as a concrete sidewalk, then what can we do with that tree?
mhm.
Is that what you're asking?
So I think I actually understand that. I mean, and let me and thank you, Thomas, for clarifying that. But it sounds like if I were to seed the 4 feet like you just described, then you would cut a larger basin out around the tree. You'd keep the existing tree, you'd trim the roots, or you put it in a position so the tree could continue to thrive and the concrete would not be disturbed in the future in the way it has been because it would have more space. Is that correct? Is that accurate?
Hmm.
Is
Yeah,
that
yes, we would still like trim we would still do a bit of root pruning to mitigate. We'd shave down the roots that are uplifting,
okay?
just only to the extent of like how much space we can in the public right of way, while leaving that like 3 feet ADA requirement. So
Got it.
yeah.
I mean, so candidly, my sense of the best outcome is to keep the tree, expand the area in which it lives and where there's dirt, cede some of my property as a right of way, right? Like, but
Mhm.
the thing here that I want to understand, and I don't understand procedurally, like if you have to reach a decision at the end of this hearing, that's sort of a binding decision, or if I can kind of come back to you and say, I'd like to know, and you can maybe tell me like what are the standards of upkeep, because I'm sure they're very well defined around the concrete or the sidewalk. If I see those 4 feet as ADA accessible sidewalk for the city of San Francisco, what does that mean to me as an owner? Like what are those standards?
Um, I don't have the standards off the top of my mind, off of like what the like uplift, reasonable uplift or anything like that. The details, specifically of like, how, what is the like, the exact, uh, standards for like excess standards of passability. Um, but I can get back to you on that with more results and also for when the decision is made on whether or not to retain and make this exception, um, that it'll be established in the decision to
Great.
that. So yeah.
That's helpful. Yeah, I'd really like to understand what are the standards of upkeep. Basically, what am I on the hook for,
Mhm.
relative to maintenance? And then I also would want to know what are my legal liabilities and obligations if I mean, it sounds to me like there would be an easement put on the title, right? That says that part of my private property provides right of way for the sidewalk. Is
For
that
the tree. Yeah, that would be my understanding is that it would be tied to yeah, you as the like property owner maintaining any like tree related damage in the sidewalk.
Yeah. And that part's okay with me. I think my bigger concern in terms of the legal implications of an easement is like what sort of liability would I have with the public being invited onto my private property as a right of way. So I think the two pieces of information I'd like to have are the standards of upkeep, what are the requirements for that? And then what is the legal liability or implications of
Mhm.
an official easement? Those are the two questions I have. And the third question I have that you could address, I think, right now is, can you help me understand the process for this? Because I see you guys, again, you're putting in a lot of diligence. Can you help me understand like where the decision point is and the timeline
Sure.
for making this decision and who makes it? I'm not really clear actually, like what
So
everybody's role is.
the director makes the decision ultimately on whether or not to make an exception for this, because we approve the removal essentially. Um, the decision will come after the fact uh, once the hearing officer has made his recommendation to the director, gathering all this information.
That's helpful.
Mhm.
So I think
As yeah,
I can explain. I think the sequence of how this will go down.
Yes.
So say scenario one, you didn't object to taking the tree out, and no one else on this call objects to it. Then the recommendation would likely be approve the removal of the tree, and Buff would come and cut the tree and fix the sidewalk, and that would be the end of it. Scenario two is you want to keep that tree, so you're basically protesting the removal of that tree. And so I will weigh in on what the option is, and it would be, well, we would concede the potentially concede the denial of the removal of that tree, so it would prevent Buff from taking that tree out with the understanding that you're going to make that concession and give up that easement space. Or you could choose, I can put it in the recommendations that if the property owner declines to consent to the easement, then it reverts back to allowing the tree to be removed. So it's not like once the decision is made today, the tree's coming out tomorrow. It just gives the opportunity to try to resolve it in a way that's agreeable to both parties. But I think just to maybe put your mind at ease, if I understand this, and I only understand what I know from what I heard today in the presentation, but this private property is just a designation that that piece of concrete, which is effectively sidewalk or driveway apron, is not mandated to be that. Like you could turn it into a rock garden or something else right now, or put AstroTurf, whatever, if you got approval for that, of course. But by doing this, you're committing to leaving it as a concrete sidewalk, which I think is probably what you want there anyway. And if that's what you want, I don't think it'll change anything much about your liability, because if someone trips on the sidewalk, that's your responsibility versus this concrete slab that's not deemed city sidewalk. It's still private property and your liability. So I think from that perspective, I don't want to get too much into the legal. I mean, I understand your trepidation about making that easement, but I think what we're basically saying is the only way we can save that tree is if we can basically slide the right of way width of the sidewalk more towards your garage door. And if you're going to replace that concrete anyway, when they flag out those damaged flags, then it's almost like it's just an extension of the sidewalk. So that's just something for you to consider. I don't know if we want to discuss it further, if you have any thoughts on which way you want to go, but I can write the recommendation that a follow-up discussion with the property owner and Buff after there's time to consider the legal implications of the easement will give you the opportunity to save that tree. Does that sound reasonable?
I think that's very reasonable, Thomas. Thank you. And to be sure, you're the director.
I'm not the director. The director of Public Works makes the determinations, but I'll make my recommendations.
I see.
And generally, unless there's something that is very controversial or disagreeable, the director will probably make the same determination.
Yeah. I think gathering some more information would be really helpful. Approximately when would the next hearing be, and approximately when might the tree be removed or the sidewalk be fixed if we went the easement route? Like what would be the timing for resolving the matter, whether it's removing or fixing the sidewalk?
For fixing the sidewalk, I don't have an exact timeline on when we will be doing it, but since this tree has been protested, it will not be removed
Move forward
until
for-
until a decision is made.
Understood. I mean, I guess what I'm trying to figure out is if we postpone now to what you just said, Thomas, when would the next hearing be, and like what would be the lead time to get this thing resolved? Like, am I kicking the can down the road 6 months, 6 weeks, 6 years?
I think there's going to be a time when the liability to the city by not fixing that sidewalk is going to present itself to be more urgent. So the sooner we arrive at decision, the better.
Okay.
I'll probably put a timeline of maybe 3 weeks on there.
Okay, this is great. So let me ask one more question. I know time is of the essence, and I'm sure you have other folks. I'm really pleased. I don't know how many folks are behind this topic, but what are the financial implications for me as an owner if either in both senses, if we remove the tree and fix the sidewalk as is, or if we allow for the easement and then repair the concrete? What are the financial implications for me?
I maybe you could weigh on this, Karan, but I think that the property owner is responsible for the cost of the sidewalk repair because it's actually your property, but the city
So
has the ability to contract the work.
yeah, so sorry, I got slightly distracted, but it's under currently it is the city's like responsibility to fix the sidewalk due to tree related damage. Uh, this regarding the fixing the like sidewalk on the private property side of it, the that would be your responsibility.
Got it. So either way, oh, the city fixes its part of the sidewalk. I just got a chat,
Mhm.
and it left my screen, but it says, well, I don't see it, but I think it said the city fixes its side of the sidewalk. So dollar wise, it doesn't matter which direction we go for me. I'm responsible for fixing the sidewalk, my side of the
Yeah,
sidewalk
that's
anyway.
that's the private property. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I think we're good. If you guys could send me this presentation, if you're able to email me that, as well as the standards of upkeep for the sidewalk, as well as whatever direct me. I know you may just direct me to an attorney, but if you can help me with understanding what the easement means. And I appreciate, Thomas, your guidance about liability. I know it sounds like what you're saying is either way, I'm kind of liable for folks.
Oh, I just know as a property owner, you're thinking if I make something more publicly accessible, am I increasing my liability, right? That's your concern.
Yes.
What I'm saying is you effectively have that sidewalk there now. It's just not legally on paper written as the city sidewalk, but it doesn't change the liability implications. That's my
Yes.
understanding. And again, I'm not an attorney, so that should probably be vetted. But I think if I give you 3 weeks, does that give you time to do some digging to find out?
Yeah. That's perfect. That's exactly what I need. I understand the situation much better. Thank you all for all this information.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So I think we have a path, unless caught on, if you think otherwise, my recommendation, I can tell you right now, is going to be, um, have Buff and the property owner discuss within 3 weeks, we'll come to terms whether we're doing the easement and saving the tree, expanding the well, or sticking with the original plan to cut the tree and fix the sidewalk and then leave that space that's the property owner's to his personal maintenance.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. I'll let the inspector, because I'm not the inspector who assessed this tree and made that determination. I'll let I'll let her reach out and work closer with the adjacent property owner and get in touch with the maintenance responsibilities and liability and etc.
Yeah, and if there's any info that we can share with some of our other partners that work on the sidewalk repairs and
Mhm.
easements from BSM, maybe we can share that information with the property owner too to help come to a quick determination on which route to go.
Okay.
And when you see this situation with other properties, is
Mhm.
this path can you tell me anything about what other folks do? Do they do the path of the easement? Like what?
This is the first time I've dealt with trying to retain the tree when I've deemed a tree like needing to be removed and going through the protesting period. I've usually done it as like more so as a hazard um,
Right.
to public safety. I don't usually do a 30-day posting for these, but I believe the inspector made an exception here because this tree was in such good shape uh,
Yeah.
to do that. Um, so.
Thank you. Are you planning on removing any of the other trees on the street?
Yeah, well, so that's the next hearing. That's the next case we have is 538 is the next door
Oh, okay. I'll hang out then.
address. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
great.
It's the same issue.
And how many more hearings are there today? How many more houses are?
There's two more. And it's or rather there's two more. It's the next door's tree, and then it's the there's another tree on Washington that's a different case entirely where the tree is in decline.
Thank you both very much. Thank you all of you.
I'll
Appreciate it.
just tell you, Andrew, I've done tree hearings for more than 12 years now, and I've never seen this scenario. So I can't really advise you on what we've done in the past. This is a new one for me.
Yeah, yep.
And I know, Thomas, because you have all that experience, like sort of off the record, do you see any, like as a consumer, I don't know if you're a property owner, but do you see any, like, do you have any guidance for me, red flags you might see, or just thoughts?
My personal opinion, if it were mine, is if I already have that sidewalk effectively as a driveway apron, I would just want it to be all combined with the other sidewalk and go that route and keep the tree. But that's if the tree is in good condition and salvageable. If the tree was in decay and a nuisance tree, then I'd probably be more inclined to have the city remove the tree. But I think in your case, it sounds like the tree is more valuable to you than giving up a piece of concrete that's already effectively a sidewalk.
Exactly. Okay. Well, thank you for that.
But again, that's just my opinion. So I'm
Yeah.
not trying to steer you where to go. I'm just giving my recs on how we can resolve this and maybe get it done within the next 3 weeks.
Fantastic. So you have my email. You'll reach out to me, Kadam, with the
Uh,
information.
Yes, I'll forward it to. I'll let the inspector be the point of contact
Okay,
for
great.
this. But my testimony today will be recorded in as well. Input it as in terms of input saved for the record.
Fantastic. All right, y'all. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thanks.
Good thing. Is there anyone else from the public that wants to give testimony on this item?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thanks. Yeah, my name's Josh. I'm the vice chair of the Urban Forestry Council for San Francisco, co-founder of Mission Verde, a 15-year planting leader with Friends of the Urban Forest, a recovering attorney, and I'm also a certified access specialist through the state's Department of the State Architect, which means I'm certified to assess accessibility in built environments for people with disabilities. So I'm fully aware of the path of travel requirements here. Just a quick note, in his opening remarks, Hayden referenced the February 22 statutory updates to the Public Works Code Article 16 regarding replacement within 120 days, which the city does not do. It also required the delayed replacement tree report, which the city does not have, despite having 4 years to have created that. It also requires the in lieu fee to be updated every year, which the city has not done since 2023. The Climate Action Plan calls for a policy of preservation and basal area replacement by 2023, which doesn't exist. And I'm glad that the homeowner has talked extensively here about what are the options to save this tree, because that's exactly what the Climate Action Plan requires the city to consider and be able to articulate. Now, I heard we're almost 40 minutes deep into this hearing. I do not understand how this easement option is only coming up now at a hearing with the homeowner having to ask about it in real time through the mechanism of an objection while the public waits online and the department has already granted the removal. That's embarrassing for the department, in my opinion. This should have been considered long before this hearing so that this homeowner could do exactly what he's asked about and had adequate time to do it. So in addition to that not even having been talked about until right now for 40 minutes in front of the public, it doesn't appear that any considerations are made regarding what other options were available. So for instance, take what's happening in Soma right now, where most of the sidewalks do not meet Public Works Order 187246. But in that neighborhood, the department is coming up with creative ways to solve for the problem of losing canopy without replacement. Also, just a quick note that is a distinction with a difference. We're not talking about ADA standards. We're talking about the California Building Code standards. That's a distinction with a difference. And we're also talking about Public Works Order 187246, which specifically notes that there can be exceptions to the planting requirements. But again, none of that appears to even have been discussed. And I'd finally note that since 2016, the audit that Caden mentioned in his opening remarks, we've actually lost canopy. We're down from around 13.7% to around 12.8%, and we've net lost hundreds of trees altogether, despite declaring that we are in a climate emergency. So in the future, I would just ask the department not approve a removal without replacement, without considering, first of all, what other options may be available and discussing those with the homeowner, without considering the exemptions to Public Works Order 187246, fully understanding what the California Building Code requires for a compliant right of way, without considering the Climate Action Plan, or even, again, talking to this homeowner ahead of time so he could consider apparently the only option on the table, let alone what other options be available. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clip. Just to understand, I appreciate your comments, but you're protesting the removal, right? Is that what I'm hearing?
I didn't protest the removal, but I'm protesting this process.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else here to give testimony on this item?
Yes, we have Sarah W. You may speak.
Hi, this is Sarah Winslow. I am the next door neighbor of Andrew Elmer, and I'll be talking more in a few minutes, I guess, about my own property. But I just wanted to get in the record that whatever I say about the tree in front of my house, I think applies equally to the tree in front of 532. And the main point here being that if the trees have to be removed because of for whatever reason, when you go in to try to fix the sidewalk, if the trees can't be saved, I do not understand why we can't replace them with another type of tree that might have less extensive roots or something like that. So I just wanted to put that in for both 532, and I will in a few minutes for 538, that it doesn't seem to make sense that if the trees end up having to be removed, even if we give you the easements, because you find out that the roots are too extensive or whatever, it doesn't make sense that we can't replace them, because we really need to have trees on our block and in this city.
Thank you. Let's address that when we do your hearing item. If that's, well, unless you want to address that comment now, Kaden.
I could just address the replaceability. It's just our code to not plant trees with sidewalks that are less than 7.5 feet wide, or 7 feet wide rather. And since this sidewalk, in terms of what the public right of way is on our records, is only 6 feet wide, that's the reason we deemed it not replaceable. So, yeah.
So the code is less than 7 feet. And in this case, it's 6 feet unless there's that easement is seated.
That's exactly. Yep.
Okay. And is that consistent across the city or just in this neighborhood?
That's our code. That is our code for planting, for any type of approved tree planting. The sidewalk needs to be at least 7 feet.
Thank you. Is there anyone else to comment on this item?
There are no other hands.
Okay, thank you. In that case, we'll close this item and we'll move to order number 212836 for the property at 538 Peralta.
Okay. I'll start my presentation for this. It's very similar to the previous, but to consider the removal of one street tree without replacement adjacent to 538 Peralta Avenue, the staff approved the removal and the public has protested. Again, it's another olive tree. It is in very good condition, or it is in good condition rather. The sidewalk is impassable due to root uplift of about 2 inches across the entire wide width of the path. The current width path of travel is less than ADA requirements of 3 feet, and the right of way here is only 6 feet wide. Here is a photo of both trees. And here's another piece of our records for what we deem is the path of the public right of way, being that this, according to our records, is only a 6 foot wide path of public right of way. And while the private right of way provides an additional 5 to 6 feet of path. As you can see, here's a photo of the messed up sidewalk, being that the path of travel of the public right of way is less than ADA requirements of 3 feet currently. So we have to get this fixed in order to meet that ADA requirement. The path of travel of sidewalk could be expanded to the departmental standard of 4 feet if the ingress rights are awarded by the property owner, and the private sidewalk is brought to city standards of passability. And that's the end of that case. And also it seems to be the case for this tree. I haven't measured this tree myself, but it looks like the gas line is within 3 feet of where the center of the tree would be as well, is what I'm seeing from this photo. So that is another thing to consider on the lack of replaceability for this tree.
So in this case, similar to the other one, given that there's those constraints, if this tree were to be saved and the tree well expanded, would I guess, can this tree be remaining even with the encroachment on the gas line?
It can remain, yes. It's just if we were to remove it, that is another thing that would stop us from replanting it, replanting a new tree.
Okay.
We wouldn't remove a tree just because of its like compliance issue with the gas line, unless it was like damaging the gas line visibly.
So the option is to retain it, but not to replace it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we wouldn't replace this.
Okay.
Doesn't seem likely that we would replace this in any situation.
Okay, but retaining it is an option.
If the if the private right of way can be ceded to accommodate the path of travel, for ADA requirements and standards of passability.
Thank you. Can we hear from the appellant? I don't see. Okay, now the hand's up.
Hi, can you hear me? This is Sarah Winslow. I'm the homeowner at 538. So I'm very happy that the city's going to repair the sidewalk. We've been asking for this for a long time, and I'm glad that you're going to do it. A couple months ago, a city employee from the Forestry Bureau came by to look at the trees and the sidewalks, and I happened to run into her, and she told me about the right-of-way issue. I said I was happy to grant the right-of-way in front of my house. She mentioned that I would have to do a little bit of repair on my side of the sidewalk because there was a little bit of uplift. And she mentioned the same thing for 532 next door. I said, yes, I'm happy to do that. And then I wanted to save the tree. She said that the city would try to save the tree, would try to repair the sidewalk and save the tree. If there was some reason they couldn't, they would remove it. And I said, okay. I was a little surprised that there was a hearing, but I understand now that this is just kind of to make everything formal. So I am formally saying that, yes, I grant the right of way on my part of the sidewalk. And I also just do want to make the point that I made in commenting on 532 Peralta, that if the tree can't be saved, if there's any way to have a replacement tree, I would very much want to have a replacement tree. I understand there's an issue with the gas line, and that is what it is. If a tree can't go in there because of the gas line, fine. But if a tree can go maybe next to the spot where it is now, then I would want to do that, because we don't have enough trees on our street already, and to lose one would be a real shame in terms of just both the value to the neighbors and to my own property, and the shade that it provides, and all the good things that trees do. So I would hope that the city will save it, and if not, that it will work with me to figure out a way that we can replace it with something, and not just more concrete.
Thank you for that. I'm just, while you're talking, I'm looking at the street view, and it looks like the adjacent garage and the gas line on the other side kind of boxes in that space. So I would think, without knowing for certain, that a replacement tree wouldn't have, there's no amount of adjusting of that box to make it fit. is kind of what I think is the outcome of that. I don't know if Cotton, if you have any further thoughts on that, but like if you look at that picture, you can't move the tree towards the front of the picture because of
Yeah.
the gas line, and you can't really move it the other way because then you're encroaching on your neighbor's driveway curb cut.
I will say our measurement is from the edge of the gas line to the center of the tree, so I would need to see the measurement myself to make sure. It was something I noticed in this photo, so to like bring up about the
Yeah.
replaceability.
No,
So
I don't want to give false hope to the owner that we can replace the tree in that spot if
it's
not possible.
there's already the same issue with the 6 foot path of travel anyway, so or 6 foot path of public right of way, so it would already
Well-
just defaulted on the like not being replaceable per our like code without the like establishment of like a legal requirement for the owner to take responsibility for the accessible path of travel like egress to be made. So,
Yeah.
But I've said that I would do that, so
Mhm.
I don't see how that's an
Oh,
issue. I
yeah,
think the only
it-
issue would be the gas line.
Well, yeah, with replacing it, right? Ideally, we not to replace it. But
Right.
what I was going to say is just that we could, as per the like in the hearing decision, we could use that as a the like legal responsibility like document. Like we can put that, we can use that as like our record for this. Essentially, is my understanding.
Okay. With that, I mean, this is probably getting too much into the weeds right here, but I'm seeing also in the street view that both the neighbor and the appellant have planters that look like portable planters in front. In order to maintain the sidewalk, would those planters have to be removed?
The planters, yeah, well, to include them as part of the path of travel, yes. We can't have the like planters like blocking the path if we were to expand the sidewalk, expand the basin rather.
Yeah, so I'm
So something new.
yeah, that's just, as the owner's trying to make a quick decision whether they want to consent or cede that space, then that might be one of the requirements that comes with that is maintaining a clear sidewalk.
That's fine.
Okay. All right. I think we're all pretty well educated on this item, unless
Mhm.
there's anyone else from the public that has testimony on this item.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So because words matter, I'm going to reiterate, it's not the ADA requirements in play here. It's the California Building Code requirements. The ADA actually only requires 3 feet of clear width on a public right of way. So if we're following the ADA, then these trees are fine. But it's the California Building Code. That is the law that requires 4 feet of clear width. So when you talk about accessibility, I would deeply appreciate it if you referred to the correct statutory requirement. Also, it's not code that the department cannot replant. It's policy signed by the former and now in prison department director, Mohammed Nuru. And there's a major difference between code and policy because code is mandatory and policy is not. And in fact, the policy that the department references specifically states that exemptions and waivers are available. At a recent Urban Forestry Council meeting, which again I mentioned, I'm the vice chair of that council, the Bureau of Urban Forestry's own supervisor acknowledged that waivers and exemptions are available. And again, our own climate action plan calls for consideration for all options to removal. So I'm not going to reiterate what I said earlier about the embarrassment of the department not following its own policy or not quoting the California Building Code, the climate action plan, and what about the similar exemptions that the Bureau is currently making to these planting requirements in the south of Market? But I only add is that it seems like someone at the department actually did speak to this homeowner. That's great. But it sounds like there was zero follow-up because now we have a homeowner basically bending over backwards in real time to keep this tree. And if someone from the department had followed up, this would not even be an item on this agenda 1 hour into it. I'd also note for anyone listening, any member of the public listening, there is a mechanism to appeal a removal permit to the Board of Appeals, which is essentially a third-party commission. You can file an appeal if the city decides to remove. You can go to the Board of Appeals, and there could be more discussion about how this might be resolved. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would just say I'm going to push back a little on the ADA comment, because as you can see in this picture, the buff representative is saying it's less than 3 feet. 3 feet is the ADA requirement. So if we don't see the space that's on the right side of the line shown on the picture, then the tree well and those two lines converge more than 3 feet. They have no other option but to push more concrete towards the tree well. That's the only way we can meet the ADA requirement. That's how I see this. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I think I understand your comment about the code versus policy, and that distinction is very nuanced, but I don't think it's incorrect to say we're not meeting ADA requirements if we're less than 3 feet. That's my comment on that.
Yeah, I'm in agreement as well with what you just said, Thomas. But
Is there anyone else that's giving testimony on this item?
There are no other hands.
Okay, I think we can close this item, and we'll move to the last item for this morning, and that's order number 212837 for pertaining to 3096 Washington Street.
Yep. I can get started on this. This is to consider the removal of one street tree with replacement adjacent to 3096 Washington Street. The staff approved the removal and the public has protested. This tree is it's a mature tree. It's in fair condition. The tree has been repeatedly topped in the past. The tree has experienced multiple limb failures, recent sidewalk repair, meaning the roots have been pruned, which is not sustainable for the species. There's a large wound at the base of the tree, and multiple signs that there's decay throughout the crown of the tree as well. The tree is replaceable, but this tree species is not sustainable for this site. So here is a picture of the decay present at the base of the tree, as well as the lean. As you can see, there's also, there's some dieback present in the center of the tree. Here in the center of some dead canopy. Here is a photo of some of the past limb failures that have occurred. There's also some decay in the center of the unions on some of the branches here. What else did I have? And yeah, that's here is another photo of the tree weighing down on some of the communication lines, putting some strain on them, and the tree is growing at a, like I said, at an awkward lean into the road space. Yeah, here's a picture of the tree being topped back in 2015 for the power line clearance. So meaning that the tree is stressed. And here's some another photo of the branch failures that have happened from earlier this year. And that's the end.
And this tree is it's going to be replaced, but you're saying with a different species?
Yes, with a smaller species for the power line, like a utility friendly species.
Is there anyone here to appeal this tree removal and replacement? See a hand up.
Yes, go ahead. Brian Monk, excuse me, Brian Monks.
Hi, everyone. I am Brian Monks. I am actually the owner that's the most impacted by the removal of this tree. I would like to, my personal opinion is I would rather the tree not be removed. My professional opinion as a member of the HOA is that I will abide by what the city suggests and take their recommendation to bear. So if it needs to be removed, so be it. I would ask, are there other mitigating circumstances or situations or actions that could be taken to potentially preserve this tree? And if not, the species that you suggest, you said it's a smaller, I'm not aware of what species would be available. Do we as homeowners and part of the HOA get to choose the tree that would be planted there? So those are the two thoughts or questions I have for the folks here.
I could answer the tree replacement species question. The ultimately the species has to be approved by the inspector for the area, but we have a internal list / we have a approved species list that's available to the public that where we make our recommendations to choose from that we could provide to the public on terms of like what we think would be the like most suitable or best suitable tree for this location that is like a utility friendly species.
In the absence of us making a recommendation, does the city just choose one that they feel appropriate? Is there, or I'm not had a tree removed in front of my property before, so just curious how I can influence that decision, or if
So
not,
we would add this to our tree replacement deferment list because this would just go into our like records as like, hey, we are trying to remove this, so we will try to replace it eventually. But that being said, you can expedite the process by applying for a tree permit and planting the tree on your own in the like if the space is replaceable, which we deemed it is. So yeah, we would you could purchase and plant the tree on your own if that isn't like an approved species by applying for a tree planting permit and going through the process.
Okay.
I think what I'm hearing though is if the city does it, you want to know if there's an opportunity to weigh in from the list of selected species.
Yes, I think what we'd have to do is our due diligence on what the cost of a 24-inch basket tree would cost and the type of species that would be acceptable. We have to understand what the cost is and then see if our HOA is willing to fund that. If not, then I'd like to have the opportunity, have the HOA have the opportunity to weigh in on the species that we select.
So typically my understanding, and this may have changed, is that when a tree is replaced, Buff will communicate with the property owner to try to find something agreeable that Buff is okay with and the owner is happy with. Because ultimately we want the owner to be satisfied with the work we're doing. So I can put that in the recommendation that the Buff inspector, when it does come time to take out the tree and replace it, that they communicate with you to discuss the proposed species. It doesn't necessarily mean you'll be able to dictate it, but you can give your opinions and preferences from the list. Does that sound reasonable?
And where do I find the approved list if we want to, if the HOA wants to do it ourselves?
So ultimately, there is the approved species list. It's on our Public Works website that you can go to. But the inspector ultimately has to make the determination on what they would approve here. And then they can provide you with a list of recommendations. But the
process, I submitted a permit request to replace after this hearing is found that they're remove the tree and it needs to be replaced, you will, at your own timing, will replace the tree. If I choose to move forward with it sooner, I can submit a permit request, and then I get a list of the trees that are allowed. Is that how that works?
Yes.
What happens after I do the permit?
Yes, you would apply for the permit and the inspector would get in contact with you and provide a list of recommendations for like what they would foresee as like a suitable tree for this location, like a utility friendly tree in this situation. A tree that ideally won't be topped.
Yeah.
What's the timeline for when is there any sort of range when Buff was planning to replace that tree?
So we do have our 120-day deferment replacement. That being said, there are many basins that we need to fill. So that replacement is not like by us is likely not going to be met, unfortunately, because we have planting commitments that we have grant funding for in other parts of the city that we have to prioritize. So we would likely remove this tree and then it would be a stump. And then when we had the grant funding slash ability to prioritize it, that is when we would for like the neighborhood to plant in, we would do it as like a neighborhood push to like replant the area as a whole versus like a one-off planting priority.
So it'll be a two-stage process where the hazard is removed soon, but the replacement might not happen for a while. So that's where you're saying the property owner can expedite that by
planting on
their own planting.
I guess I would then ask are there mitigating actions that we can take as a HOA to prune back, trim back, cut out the potentially offensive or hazardous limbs that could fall immediately to slow down the process so that we can keep the tree longer and shorten the window between replacement and cut down? Is there any mitigating could we mitigate the hazard that you say there is for this in such a way that it would delay any further potential damage or potential hazard, and then the window between replacement and cut down would be shortened? This canopy, this tree is beautiful. The canopy is beautiful. It provides a lot of shade and privacy for my unit specifically. I'm the only owner that lives in the property that is impacted by the removal of this. So I'm just really concerned that it's going to be gone for so long, and I'm also concerned about the type of tree that goes in there because it will take decades for it to be replaced. I understand that it needs to be removed if the city deems it hazardous, but I'm just trying to reduce the window between cut down and replacement.
Yeah, so there are other issues other than just the failing branches in the canopy. Like I said, there's the decay at the base of the tree that was identified, and the lean that's present as well. That could like mean that the tree is like unstable and could technically fall into like the street and onto like a parked car. So there is like an active risk there with trying to retain the tree that isn't like something we can like approve like pruning on. For like to mitigate, just because you can't really prune a stump. I mean, you can't really prune like this kind of like issue. You can't really maintain a tree that to mitigate this. So that being said, since that's identified, that is kind of like that is like one of our justifying factors for like getting this tree removed. That being said, though, with trying to get the tree replaced, if you're concerned about like the time frame between the tree coming down and when the replacement will happen, that's all on just the how fast we can get a planting permit issued to you to replace the tree. And that is something that's on that we can like work with you with on like issuing the permit, like prioritizing it.
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough. Okay.
That's something that's just the inspector will just have to like reach out and work with you on.
Okay, that's
So-
that's fair. That's a good compromise. I did send you an email too to include me on any communication. So that's
Okay.
it. Forestry. So except I'm not the
So-
acquaintance. So
Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, we will, respond. We'll get back to you on that, and see about trying to get this application, the tree permit issued and ready to plant whatever species we could recommend um, for choosing.
okay, that's fair. Thank you.
Is there anyone else providing testimony on this item?
Yes, there is Bonnie Cohen. Just a moment.
May I now start?
Yes.
Yes.
Some context would be helpful. If you're looking at this slide number 28, if you look at the lower right-hand corner of that photograph, that is part of a handrail that leads directly from my front door, not Mr. Monk's front door, to the damage that happened in December of 2025. For context, Mr. Monks does not speak for our property, nor do I. We are a 4-unit condo building, and one representative from each of the 4 units is a member of the board. So we have a 4-member board, and Mr. Monks and I are both equal board members and resident homeowners. The way our property is laid out is that 2 of the units face Washington Street. I live on Washington Street. That handrail that you can see towards the end is what I hold on to get out my front door. Immediately to the west of that handrail is my driveway where I park my car. For background information, I have owned my condo here since 1994, so I have a lot of historical and anecdotal information to share. Mr. Monks, on the other hand, lives around the corner on Baker Street. Our unit is on the northwest corner of Washington and Baker. The 2 lower units use Washington Street. Mr. Monks and the 4th homeowner live on Baker Street. To my knowledge, the only connection between Mr. Monks and that tree is that the tree as it exists today provides some coverage through a small kitchen window in his unit. My strong opinion is that this tree is a clear and present danger to people and property. I think it's nothing short of a miracle that no one was hurt, killed, or maimed when that massive branch came tumbling down. It blocked access to the sidewalk, and in particular, as it concerns me, it blocked access to my driveway. I'm a disabled senior citizen. I have more medical appointments than I care to relay. And if I can't get in my car, or if Uber can't get to my home to take me to a medical appointment, my health is severely compromised. This tree has been the subject of prior hearings to support its removal. And I urge the hearing officer and the applicable city department to remove that dangerous tree just as soon as possible. I think we can work together to discuss what should replace it. But for the short term, that tree endangers my safety and the safety of any pedestrian walking down the block when something like this occurs.
Okay, excuse me. That's been her 3 minutes time. I'm sorry, I didn't have the timer in the microphone. Mr. Reutemann, did you want her to continue or do you have questions?
I mean, I think I got the gist of your testimony and your concern about the tree. Is there any other factual items other than, I understand your position on wanting to take it out. Is there anything that can help, factually support your assertions or that you want to add to that? Could get like another 1 minute.
Yes, Mr. Reutemann, thank you. In the past, that tree has seriously and significantly uplifted the sidewalk. And Mr. Monks has lived here for about a year. This goes back further than that. I don't recall why or under what city code, but our HOA had to pay to fix the damaged sidewalk because it was a clear trip hazard. And it's going to happen again. My personal belief is that when the roots of the tree were cut, they were left so that the roots could not sustain the tree. Since this branch that you're seeing fell, the listing of the tree towards the street has increased. The bark has been peeling and deteriorating tremendously. There also should be a picture where I was able to put a kitchen knife through the bark of the tree. I'm just shocked that anyone would disagree that this tree is a dangerous liability and safety hazard for both our HOA and for the city. The city has been on notice for literally years that this tree is dangerous, and it's more than frustrating that this process has been delayed as long as it has, and that anyone would object to removing that tree.
Thank you, Ms. Cohen.
I appreciate it. I won't put it in my write-up that you took a kitchen knife to this tree, but I think you were saying that euphemistically. One could put a knife through the hole in the tree. Sorry, I guess it's not a humorous time. Is there anyone else to provide testimony on this tree?
Yes, we have Mr. Clip.
Yeah, just a moment here. The department didn't understand my previous public comment, so I'm going to clarify. I'm saying that California law requires 4 feet of clearance on the public right-of-way. The ADA requires only 3. So the California Building Code actually requires more than the ADA, which is why the California Building Code is the applicable law. And when we say ADA, what that says to me is you don't understand the law. I'm not trying to say you're wrong. I'm trying to help you speak more accurately. Also, the reason I say that code and policy are different is because code is mandatory and policy is policy. Policy isn't passed by the Board of Supervisors and signed by the mayor. It's signed by a guy who thought it was a good idea. And maybe Public Works Order 187246 is a great idea. Let's say that it is. Then you also have to say that the exemption and waiver process in that policy is a great idea too, because that is also part of that policy. And it's a policy to which the department is actively making exemptions right now in the south of Market. So I'm not speaking hypothetically. I'm talking about what the department is actually doing in other neighborhoods. And that's why I talk about the distinction between code and policy, because the policy asks you to do more than just blindly follow planting requirements. It also asks you to consider waivers and exemptions. And then regarding this tree, regarding the 120 days, again, the department has not followed that 100-day replacement requirement, 120-day replacement requirement in the 4 years that's been the law. There is also no existing deferred replacement list, despite that being in the law for 4 years. So for the homeowner and the HOA, my recommendation, I think, as has been discussed, would be to do it yourself. Because if you wait for the city, you will be waiting for a very long time. But also know that this is going to require you to water it yourself because the city will only water trees that are part of an established watering route. And even then, under the existing watering practices, it'll probably only get watered about once every 12 days when it should be watered once every week. So in the spirit of full transparency, that's what you're looking at in terms of replacement. Thank you.
Thank you for that. All right, is there anyone else providing testimony on this item?
Yes, we have Brian Monks.
I just wanted to make sure that my comments earlier were clear that I'm not opposing the removal of the tree. So that is not an objection of mine, and I am abiding by the city decision.
Thank you. I don't know if you can address this, but since there are two other homeowners, was there any internal consultation with the other homeowners? Since there's an HOA that, ultimately governs the decisions for that building.
If I'm still, yeah, okay, I'm still still unmuted. There's been multiple discussions about this during every HOA meeting I've been a part of. I've been a homeowner for a year, as Bonnie or Ms. Cohen has stated. So I feel that the other homeowners are in agreement with Ms. Cohen and I that we will abide by the city. We'll take the city's decision and we will abide by their decision. There are no objections from the other homeowners that were lobbied or expressed to me.
Thank you for sharing that. All right, is there anyone else here to provide testimony on this or any of the other items that they haven't had a chance to provide testimony on? Hearing none, I'll close this order. And with that, we can close the hearing.